That's our logo. I will introduce to you what it is because our session started.
We're getting a product launch.
Yeah, a little. So welcome everybody. Thank you that you are joining our sponsor session. And I just mentioned sponsor session, so your expectation is right, that you get some kind of advertising. But as we are both Microsoft Platform MVPs, we are not marketing guys, so you will get some more technical insights from our side to this kind of product, which is called Woody.io, and Woody.io is my dog, and we have... No, it's not a reference to Bug Woody. That's important to understand. It's not a reference to Bug Woody, and Bug Woody has no IP in this kind of product. So what we are talking today is a little bit about when we are in projects with our clients, we always encounter that there are scenarios where you have the problem that you need to upload data into an environment like, for example, a data lake or an SAP HANA system, Databricks, Snowflake, you name it, that will be uploaded or that is maintained by people who are not data engineers and from systems maybe that are not something like an ERP system where you have built an whatever Azure Data Factory pipeline to it to pump the data from one system into another. So the intention of that product is that we allow non-technical users to upload data into productive systems, quality systems, wherever, in a kind of regulated and audited way. So the intention is really to do something that an operator can upload stuff, but let's say a data steward or an experienced user can set up things for that. So let's talk a little bit about the use cases here. And normally, if you load data into your data warehouse, you do that, as I mentioned, by Azure Data Factory or any kind of ETL tool. Now, when it comes to the point that you maybe get a kind of planning table in Excel or something like this that is provided by your finance department on a regular way, you have to think about, okay, what can I do to upload this kind of information into my data warehouse, into my productive analytics system. On the one side, you can say, hey, we can do a OneDrive and we can drop Excel spreadsheets in there, and then we uploaded this by an automated process in the background, and here we go. The problem sometimes is that you deal with any kind of bad data in there. So somebody has just copied an Excel spreadsheet somehow and missed some kind of numbers, etc. So you do not really have the ability to check the quality what you upload into it. And on the other side, you do not really have somebody that is uploading the data that is of the knowledge of that data. So he cannot review it. And you maybe also cannot approve it. And all these kind of things, we thought about how can we solve that. So for example, doing things like manually maintaining dimensions, loading data for planning reasons, adding some kind of row-level security for the upload. So for example, that we are coming from Germany, that only the German employee can upload his or her German data, and the English employee can upload her or his English data. And on the other side, having some kind of 4i principle that if you upload data, that somebody is looking at it and say, okay, this is good, let's go into production. Now, what we have set up is a kind of tool which resides on Azure. So it's a pure native Azure application that you can install or deploy into your subscription. And this kind of system is called Woody.io, and it has some kind of core functionality. It has different connectors, it has some kind of auditing function, some kind of business rules, and something that is called Live Edit. Let's check how it is structured. What we have for, based on our experience with our clients, is that we have so-called apps. And in this kind of application, you have the possibility to assign user or security groups from Azure AD to it. And you have some kind of roles, like, for example, one is a data steward, one is a contributor, one is an approver. And you can have different apps in our solution. So you can do that by project, or you can do that by department, etc. Anything you would like to, how to structure your data upload. The whole thing is a little bit more technical in the background. So we have something in this application that we name it as a meta model. What do we have in mind with a meta model? Meta model is just that we try to capture all the connection information, the way how the entities are set up, etc., etc. And I will come to that a little bit in the next slide. But the meta models, you can have different meta models in your application to manage your project. You have different connectors in an application, and you have things like lookups, which are additional connections to certain sources, so we can run some kind of cross-checks and some kind of transformation processes in there. And then in that kind of application, you can have different imports. And by imports, we mean something like you are maybe a person who has to upload, let's say, Excel spreadsheet on a daily, monthly, or whatever base. Yeah? So you can run these kind of imports on these kind of schedule, not automatically, but you can do this over the system, and you can always reuse this kind of meta information. So somebody who is not experienced, yeah, has just the possibility to use the meta information and go for it. In the process itself, maybe you can zoom in the left bit a little bit. In the meta model as such contains of entities, and you can imagine these kind of entities are just some kind of tables with attributes in there. And to this, we have some kind of import templates. So they define the way how you have your source system and how the source system is addressed, some kind of mapping information in there. We have some functionality in the product that does transformations, and I already mentioned the lookups. On top, you see that we have, for the entities, we have some business rules. And business rules is the intention to say, if you have somebody unexperienced that uploads the data, and maybe it's this kind of Excel spreadsheet, and it has some kind of, maybe some kind of wrong keys in there, some wrong descriptions. Maybe you want to create some kind of integrity with your lakehouse or with your data warehouse, and you want to cross-check, are these keys the correct keys that the person has uploaded? You can do this via the business rules. And as I mentioned, you can also do some kind of row-level security via this. If you go into the whole overview, and you see we split that a little bit. The left side, from your perspective, is the admin governance side. So from a role perspective, we thought of, there is an experienced data steward who knows the sources, who knows the entities and the meta model. So he is or she is relevant for the governance part of the upload. And then on the right side, you see what we call operations. So there is somebody who just uses this kind of import template and then does the import or does the live edit, because we also offer some functionality to say, if you have a destination and you maybe have this kind of table and you want to edit values directly on it, we also offer this kind of functionality, but again, with all the validation processes and with all the business rules that apply. So let's see how the whole process works. The first thing is, of course, you upload the data from this kind of data source. That could be an Excel spreadsheet, CSV file, Parquet file. This could be an SAP HANA system, Microsoft SQL Server, Snowflake, you name it. And then there is a kind of validation process. In the validation process, all these kind of business rules will apply. You also have the possibility, if you get an error, you can see that error immediately and you can edit this error, so you can correct this kind of thing. And then the next step is something that we always, again, see by a data steward or an approver, that you say, okay, this is now approved. I have a 4i principle looking at it, saying, okay, this is fine. And then I can persist this. So that means, for example, it will be written into a data lake as a Parquet file or into the SQL system or into Snowflake or whatever. We also offer some kind of what we call post-persist. That means that when this kind of write into the system has finished, there can be triggered some stuff like SQL commands or HTTP, so you can call a REST API, you can call logic apps with this, or you trigger any kind of jobs on it. Yeah? And what we want to do now is to give you just a real-life demo, and that's something that Tilman will do.
Okay, so this will be a small demo, and
Tilman is using Zoomit.
I will use Zoomit for sure. As you can see here, I'm in Databricks, and I just executed a small SQL statement on our warehouse stock items table, and there are no rows in it. If I now go to Woody.io, I create a new import, and we completely defined the meta model upfront, which means the entities, the business rules, and everything which Oliver explained before. And I have here two different import templates, two Databricks, and I will use it product load from SQL Server. So I just click here product load, say something like initial, say create, and in the background, the Woody.io worker starts and already has 227 rows imported. And now I just say validate, and the system validates all the rows I've imported. And if I now say finish, the data will now stored inside of Databricks. And
as you see, there is a logging functionality, so everything you do, everything that people are doing in this system gets traced in the end. So from an audit perspective, you see exactly if somebody has uploaded data, what kind of system it is.
Exactly. And now if I see this, 227 rows successfully persisted, I can go back to my Databricks, execute this here, and I will see 227 rows. So everything is loaded directly to my Databricks version.
And that could be your Snowflake, SQL system, Microsoft SQL, whatever.
Exactly. Now I'm deleting some rows here inside of Databricks and also update one row. And after that, I will show directly what is in there. And that's also really simple. It's just that I changed here the stock item name to SQLBits 2023, and we only have 185 rows. If I now go back to Woody.io, I can say reload and execute. And now the system goes back to the SQL server, grab the data, and reload the complete data to our Databricks table, and update all the information there via the stock ID. I think that's the key here, and added the new rows which we deleted before.
In technical terms, in this case, it really does a merge statement. So it updates and inserts data that is in there. We also offer the functionality to do a delete. So for example, you can have scenarios where you say, I have that file, and this file is maybe a blacklist or something like this, and I want to have that file deleting by a certain key all the stuff in my data warehouse, and this works as well.
And as you can see here now, again, we have the correct stock item name here and also the correct number of rows. And this is something which I think is really easy for data person which is not a data engineer that he can or she can really easily upload the data and change it. Okay, now I go back to my dashboard and now I create a new import. And the second import I will now create is something which we call live edit. And live edit means that we connect directly with Woody.io to the data source, or this part here now to the destination, which is our Databricks environment, and we can directly edit the Delta Lake tables on Databricks via Woody.io.
So imagine a scenario where maybe you just want to have a schedule table for your data warehouse, where you want to enter some kind of dates or times, or where you want to change flags in systems that you say, hey, now load this, now load that. But this is an intermediate process. Somebody in our team previously, we did this, maybe built a Power App to do this. But with this, you can do this over a lot of systems and directly, and for example, as well in Databricks.
Yeah, but now I get an error here, which I didn't know exactly why. I will try it again. Maintenance. I will call it 3. Create a new import session.
So let's look into the data.
Go into the data.
Yeah, press F5. Fn F5.
You mean? Okay. That was a problem. Okay. The data is loaded now, and you will see all the data directly on the from the Databricks. I can go to Quick Edit, and maybe I just change here 12 to 25. I close the Quick Edit, and now I go to Validate, and the data will be validated in the background. If I now go to the dashboard, as you can see here, I get a warning. So, because we have edited some business rules in the background on the data, and if I go back now to the data, I can again go to Start Adjustment and go to my Quick Edit, go to Filter, go to Warnings, Apply Filter, and now I should see here my warning. And if I go here, Supplier Check, this is the business rule we created, and this is a lookup against an additional table, and the value 25 is not allowed here. I can see the original one was 12. I can enter it again, or I can also reset it, close the Quick Edit, and go back to the dashboard, say Validate again, no errors found, and then I can finish that. And so I've edited the data directly on my Databricks Delta tables.
Yep. And in the background, every time there is this kind of logging mechanism, you can also do these kind of editing stuffs, which we currently not yet have that in this demo, but you can have an approval. So that means if somebody is editing this, you maybe have somebody who has to look at it before it gets into the production system. So with this, you have the possibility on the one side to upload the data, to delete data in your productive systems based on an auditable way within Azure with a lot of connectors that you can approve if you are interested in it, we have some demos at the booth, so you can talk to us. We are still until Saturday here, and yeah, I think we are through.
I think we are through, yes. This was a really simple example, especially to the business rules. We can build really complex business rules, but I think in 20 minutes it's enough to show that.
Yep.
And yeah, come to our booth.
Okay, so thank you for your audience. Did we do it in time? Yeah.
Yeah. 2 minutes faster.
Oh.
A minute early.
Oh, you get to a session where Tillmann and I finished a minute early. That's really a record. I never had that before.